Crumpets are highly underrated. Funny story, at work one day I took a pack in for my breakfast to last the week. Monday morning, 10 a.m., I pull out my crumpets. Polish friends inquires as to what they are. Me, being a good friend, offers. Without a second thought, he grabbed one from the pack, took a large bite and began to chew. My jaw dropped in amazement. The look on his face was priceless. He realized he made a mistake as any form of bodily hydration was quickly being absorbed by the dry, uncooked crumpet in his mouth. "You're supposed to toast it," I shouted, laughing hysterically, as Polish friend began to choke in struggled amusement. Group rapture ensued. Genuinely one of the funniest moments of my life.
I should preface this by saying I have never made a post on Reddit before, and English is not my first language, so apologies for any errors and formatting below. If anyone knows of a more accurate subreddit to post this story to, feel free to redirect me there. Before we dive into the story, I will give a little background to my situation. I work as an apprentice at a faculty of law in a northern country. I will not be any more specific than that due to the uncertainty I still have about this situation. Now, on Tuesday this week I was at the front desk with a colleague of mine I'll call R. R is a third-year law student at this faculty and has not studied criminal law as of yet. This becomes somewhat relevant later on as these students work as they study at the faculty. I am not normally at the front desk. I have my own office in the building, but part of this apprenticeship is to be familiar with the various tasks to meet the requirements to pass this apprenticeship and take its final. Since it had been a while, and I was scheduled to have a shift at the desk on my own in less than a week, the manager of the information center desk proposed 3 smaller shifts with the regular employees at the desk to get me back into the swing of things. Since it is the faculty of law, giving misinformation or a solid answer to the law students could be a slippery slope at times, so my superior agreed right away and scheduled me in. Right now we're in a slow period at the information desk. There are a few exams coming up, but it is rather quiet compared to most of the year. So, me and R decided to tidy up behind the desk. We looked through documents and paper which students hadn't picked up, and mail which we had been unable to identify the recipient of. This is where we begin our journey down the rabbit hole of an overthinker's 48 hours of terror. Now, as an apprentice, I get all sorts of tasks. Handing the mail of the faculty is one of my daily tasks. So there were some letters, mail which I hadn't been able to locate the recipient of. She held up one letter with a logo of a publishing house I recognized and I asked to inspect it. At first I googled the recipient's name through a database, as by the address, the recipient could have been an employee, previously employed, a guest who'd borrowed our office for a few weeks, etc. After I run the name a few times through a database and Google, I come up with few mentions of the name, but nothing concrete, no information of current employment or address. Since these letters, the mail had been behind the desk since fall at most, and December at least, the options were to throw them out or figure it out. Someone might see where this is going, but I preface this by saying I didn't know it at the time, and you'll see that. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided to open the letter in hopes of determining whether the contents of the letter could be thrown out, shredded, or had to be passed on to the recipient. Once I pulled the letter out, I see these are royalties from the publishing house, summarizing the total royalties he received for an old publication from early 2000s during 2018. The total of royalties for 201x. The title of the publication is listed, so I think, great. I have a new clue. And go digging again using the title to find more information about the recipient. I find a site of a distributor which state the faculty is the author's current employer, which I have just confirmed is not the case. I roll my eyes and keep digging. Then as I keep diving through Google using the title as my search, I find the recipient's work profile at a firm, but I do not check or register the name of it yet, and do not register his title at the company as anything special. Dang it, I think. I then notice his email address is listed and think to myself, well, if he can be bothered to read it, he can decide whether he wants this or not, which is what we usually do anyways, contacting them through phone or email. So I start typing up an email to him, filling out the to and subject lines, but feel a bit nervous about it, not sure why yet, probably because I found out he is a lawyer and older than me, but it makes me pause and check the front page for an address, thinking they might have it listed. And there he is. Front and center. It finally clicks. He is currently employed by, possibly running his family's law firm. Now that hunch, that dread starts to sink in. Since my sister wants to study criminal law, I made a mental note that it was listed on the page. I scrambled to the website of our country's law database and simultaneously Google, is opening another person's letter illegal? Ding ding ding, it is. Punishable by fine and/or prison time. I delete the draft of the email, very slowly and carefully as to not press any short keys in the process. I sit and quietly panic on the inside, while appearing just deep in thought, concentrated on my work to I scour the front page again, hoping I could avoid sending a written admission of what I had done, even if I included the context and reason for it. The idea was pretty bad to me at this point. Part of me wanted to say, he will probably not think twice about it, but the overthinking is grinding and imagining the worst case scenarios only overthinkers can. Part of me wanted to say, he will probably not think twice about it, but the overthinking is grinding and imagining the worst case scenarios only overthinkers can. Then my eyes see the teeny tiny writing in the left corner of the front page. I wanted to scream, hallelujah, at the top of my lungs. They had an address. I exclaimed to her that I have found the recipient and their address, which she commends me for. One of our colleagues from the administration drops by, who is known as our local Nancy Drew, the usual mystery solver to mail packages and other things at the faculty. We chat a little before we notice the time, and I realize my shift at the information desk has come to an end. I was just relieved that I didn't have to send an email now, so I packed my things and headed back up to the office. I put the letter back into its envelope, tape it shut. Then put the taped envelope into another envelope and write out the name and address, hoping this is the end of it, and nothing will come of it. I reassure myself I only wanted to get the letter to him, and things will be fine. But I couldn't let this really go, even after the postman picked up the letter and sent it off. I brewed on this for a while, and finally 2 days later I told my colleague, Nancy Drew, of what I had done from start to finish. I also asked her if I had done something wrong. She shrugged it off and smiled, congratulating me on solving my first mystery. Despite being around my mother's age, she gave me a high five and a hug. She then proceeded to use a machine to make a title sticker for me. It reads, Nancy Drew Jr., and now hangs outside my office, below my name. It might be worth something to mention that this colleague has worked at a post office for many years and also handles mail at the faculty. I ran my story by my superior at our weekly meeting where we catch up on what I have been doing, tasks, mini-missions from other colleagues and new experiences, etc. I ran my story by my superior at our weekly meeting where we catch up on what I have been doing, tasks, mini-missions from other colleagues and new experiences, etc. She tells me it's fine and shrugs it off too, so I'm a little more at ease now and went home today in better spirits. Now here comes the silver lining which made me want to post this in the first place. Let us dive into part 2 of this story. I am fairly proud about this new title I've been given at work, and show my mom a picture I took of the outside of my office. She reminds me of something my great-grandmother, grandfather's grandmother, once told my mom and family just after I was born. My great-grandmother wanted my mom to name me after her. Her name was Nancy. I recall my mother telling me about this when I asked her a few years ago what names she and my father considered for me. My mom thought Nancy was a bit outdated for her taste. So I got a different one which my father ended up picking. My mom vetoed only one suggestion, which was the name of an ex-girlfriend of my father. My great-grandmother lived to be 98 years old. I never knew her personally, but I have seen her picture. My mom encourages me to tell my grandfather about my new title, and so I go down a few hours ago and sit on the living room floor between my grandmother's armchair and my grandfather's favorite couch, where he is sprawled out enjoying himself. My grandparents are both in their late 70s. I tell them I have a story for them, and they turn around, sit up to hear it. I didn't go into an as detailed explanation as I did here, but I gave them the gist of it without mentioning any names or firms. To keep my silence at work is one of the many things you sign off on. It's a fine line. During the story I have a wide smile on my face and finally drops the Nancy Drew Jr. bomb on him, then jog my grandfather's memory by saying, wasn't it great-grandmother Nancy who wanted me named after her? With a slightly coy smile. This makes me tear up even hours later, just a little. My grandfather is an atheist, but he lifted a finger, with an honest, wide smile on his face, chuckles and waves the finger at the roof as if he thinks she is listening in on this. Or planned the whole thing. I show them both the picture of my office door to prove my new title, and they just beam with a sort of amusement. It's a lovely feeling to see two old souls be so upbeat and enjoying themselves. My grandfather's smile doesn't fade for a while, but I did bring the legal concerns up during the conversation, so he goes back into accountant mode for a minute, worked with budgeting and similar things until retirement, and talk about it with me, reassuring me that it was fine. There was no intent to steal, withhold information, etc. He agreed it was a dilemma and acknowledged there weren't many options here either, but I still feel not only bad about opening the letter, but also wonder if there will be anything of it once the guy receives it. TLDR, I opened the letter of a lawyer who, most likely, runs his family's law firm at work to find the actual address of the letter, realized the act could be a crime, then was praised by my colleagues who work at the Faculty of Law for accomplishing what I set out to do, sending it to him. I was given a junior detective title, name Nancy Drew Jr. as a joke nickname, which was the same as my great-grandmother's, who wanted my parents to name me after her, and showed my new title to my grandfather, who knew of the wish and gave me the purest smile I've ever seen a 79-year-old man make.
Hi. This is honestly the funniest story I have, and I hope you guys enjoy it. In my old high school, the cafeteria was in the center of the school. If you wanted to get from band class or the auditorium to any other class, you had to cross the cafeteria, which was a big section set 3 steps lower than the rest of the school. I was walking down these steps when I missed the middle one and fell, spraining my ankle. I was lying there in tears, unmoving, as dozens of kids walked around me like I didn't even exist. One boy even made eye contact with me and just kept walking. The bell for the next class was just about to ring when 3 people who actually liked me found me curled up on the ground. 2 stuck with me and made sure I wasn't too hurt, while the 3rd rushed off to get me a wheelchair. So I got into the wheelchair and headed towards the band class. There was a problem, though. The arms of the wheelchair made playing my clarinet very difficult. So I had a friend move my wheelchair not far away while I sat in a normal chair to play, and everything was great until I tried to leave and found out someone stole my wheelchair. It was nowhere to be seen at all. No big problem, I thought. I stood up and hopped out the door. I rested myself against the hallway wall and was determined to get to my next class all the way across the school. Of course, this fails and I fall on my face again and hurt myself worse. Someone had to carry me to the office, where I called home and told them what happened. Since we couldn't find the wheelchair anywhere, I had to go home early. The next day we discovered the wheelchair was abandoned in the backstage of the auditorium. Because I was bitter, I refused to use the wheelchair again or get crutches after that, and I just hobbled and hopped to all of my classes until I was healed.
LMAO few hours ago in P.E. My friend's friend wanted to drink water, so he asked me for a water. I thought I didn't had a water, my water bottle is full, so I tried to show him that I don't had water, so I flip a water bottle, but there were water. Lol. He thought I was being an asshole. It is like, can I have your water? Flipping water bottle like I don't have water for you. When your mom is looking for the remote and you swear it's not under you, and then she tells you to get up and you're mad because you had to get up. But it was under you the whole time. Okay, so one day me and my friends were hanging out at a park. I brought money for the vending machine and I still had $1 in quarters left. So I told my friend he could have one if he went up to a little girl and told her that he was in love with her dog, and before he did it the little girl went to her big sisters. So he went up to the big sisters and said it. After he did, he asked what gender it was and they said that the dog was. The sisters said it was a boy and my friend said it'll be gay. Right after he said that, I walked up to them and said to my friend, "Oh Nugget," that was his nickname. "Are you trying to do bestiality again?" Right after I said that, I cracked up laughing and gave him the 25 cents. The girls walked away.